The Biden administration has asked some of the world's largest oil-consuming nations to consider releasing crude reserves in a coordinated effort to lower fuel prices and stimulate the economic recovery.
Global oil prices touched 7-year highs in late October as oil demand has rebounded nearly to pre-pandemic levels, faster than the pace of supply. OPEC and allied producers, led by Saudi Arabia and Russia, have been adding 400,000 barrels per day to the market on a monthly basis. They resisted calls this month from US President Joe Biden for steeper boosts. In recent weeks, Biden and top aides have raised the issue with close allies, including Japan, South Korea and India, as well as China. Several people familiar with the matter caution that such negotiations have not been finalized, nor has any final decision been made about whether to pursue this or any other course of action on oil prices. The White House declined to comment on the detailed content of specific conversations with other countries. OPEC and allies have been wary of boosting output dramatically, concerned the rebound in demand could be fragile and additional supply could overwhelm markets. According to OPEC Secretary General Mohammed Barkindo, the surplus is already beginning in December. Rising oil prices have been an increasingly concerning political problem for Biden, a Democrat who took office in January. U.S. gasoline prices are $3.41 per gallon now, according to AAA. More than 60% higher than a year ago as the economy has rebounded from the COVID-19 pandemic.
And to discuss this, I'm joined live from Washington, D.C. by Omid Shokri, who's a foreign policy and energy geopolitics advisor. Omid, thank you so much for joining us again here today on The Edge. It's not so long ago that oil prices fell into negative territory, and now because they've increased and putting pressure on particularly on the U.S. economy and indeed across the world, there's a call for them to be brought down again. I know it's a very fragile balance in pricing the cost of this commodity. How could you explain it to us?
Thanks for having me. As you mentioned, the last year, the oil market saw the dramatical year in history, and oil price has been negative. During that time, Trump administration played an important energy diplomacy and discussed with major energy producers such as Saudi Arabia and Russia to create a balance in the market to help the U.S. economy and to help the U.S. shale companies. At present, Biden administration trying to follow the same policy, but the U.S. is in not such a strong position like Trump era. About the strategic petroleum reserve, I have to say, according to the last statistics released by the U.S. Energy Administration, at present, U.S. strategic petroleum reserve is about 612,000 barrels per day, and U.S. will be able to release every day 4 million barrels per day, and it takes 13 days to reach market after possible decision will be made by the U.S. president. The petroleum reserve release just has a short-term effect and could be help the market create a balance and price goes down. But for a medium and the long term, U.S. and allies and major energy consumers such as China, India, Japan, and South Korea may diversify by energy resource and also focus on energy transition process and made huge investment and financial capital and technology in renewable energy for facing such possible energy crisis in coming years.
As you mentioned, Joe Biden's or his administration is talking with China, India, Japan, and others about working together to bring prices down. How significant is this move? Because at the end of the day, it's fairly obvious that it's in order to boost domestic politics as much as anything.
Yeah, a very good point. You know, before this conversation with a major energy consumer, Biden Administration and Energy Secretary and also National Security Advisor of White House tried to reach Saudi Arabia and Russia to boost oil production to create a balance in the market and to oil price to goes down. But when OPEC Plus member opposed this suggestion by U.S. Biden administration tried to reach energy consumer countries to work together to release some of part of a strategic oil reserve to oil price goes down to help this country to recover their economy, which affected by energy crisis. I think without cooperation between major energy consumer, it's not possible for the U.S. to be successful to creating a balance in the market. As I mentioned, if China and other major consumer with U.S. try to have cooperate and release some part of strategic reserve, we can see in the short term the oil price goes down. This decision will be help to these countries to recover their economy and to overcome the effect of huge energy prices, especially during coming months and in the winter.
It's not until something goes wrong or though we go through some difficult times that we really appreciate just how central to the economy oil is. I remember back in the 70s there being a petrol crisis in the UK and petrol being rationed. And now today we're seeing, not rationing, but we're seeing prices going up across Europe and the US. How difficult is it for the different bodies? I think the 1970s issue was about OPEC having some difficulties. How difficult is it to balance supply and demand to keep all the countries in the world happy?
You know, the international dynamic has changed from 1970 to 2021, and also the dynamic of energy market also has changed. We have saw some renewable energy, we have saw some energy transition process, we have see the high technology using in all energy aspect. I mean, oil and gas, renewable electric vehicle, nuclear, and other part. I mean hydrogen. During the 70s, 80, the major concern was from the energy consumer. But at the same time, we see that the same situation for just energy consumer. Energy procedure are satisfied with oil price. And as you know, that during the last OPEC Plus summit, OPEC members agreed to continue gradually oil production boost by next May, and because they are very concerned about the possible uncertainty in the market. But in the other side, I mean, in consumer side, they faced the same situation in 78. They faced a real energy crisis. And as I mentioned, without cooperation and without more investing in renewable energy and energy transition process, the situation is really worse and bad for economy of these these countries. In the U.S., I have to say, energy security in the U.S. means gasoline price in the pump station. And during Biden administration, due to energy crisis, the U.S. faced highest inflation rate during last 3 decades. Energy costs and energy prices directly affected inflation rate, and it's not against U.S. national security and U.S. energy and economy.
Is that because the US hasn't developed its renewables sufficiently and it hasn't diversified in the same way that other countries around the world may have done?
You know, during the last year, and also especially when the world faced a COVID pandemic, majority of oil and gas projects around the world delayed because of the lack of financial capability and technology. And if any project delayed or start with the according plan, it shows its effect during 1 or 3 years later. Any project delayed last year and 2 years ago, we can see the effect of this project this year, and any lack of investment shows it's in coming years. And U.S. has a very good potential in solar and wind, and Trump administration himself, he made huge investment in it, and also Biden administration tried to same the policy. But as I mentioned, due to COVID and the lack of financial capability, all countries such as U.S. and China delayed some project, and we can see the effect of delaying project in this year and maybe next year.
Now, as you've already suggested, OPEC is taking a prudent approach because we don't know what the coming year is going to bring. Will it bring another reiteration of the slump we saw during pandemic days last year? How else does, I know that there's a lot of, the economy also not only revolves around current purchases and sales, but also about the futures market. So how does activity like this unsettle the markets generally?
Yeah, this is a very good question. About the future of energy market and mainly natural gas and oil market, majority of experts believes that the current energy crisis will continue the middle next spring, and after spring and the initial months of summer, we can see some balance in the market, but because of high demand will be faced in market by next summer and also next fall, all major energy consumer has to have set a plan for mid-term and long-term to reduce dependency of fossil fuel and more invest in renewable energy and more focus on energy transition. As you are aware, during the Glasgow summit, major countries released their long-term plan for decarbonization and for the more investment and more focus on energy transition process. If major energy consumers did not notice this plan, I think during the coming years they may be faced some the same energy crisis, and it will not be in favor of their national security and energy security and also economy as well.
Well, Omid Chokri, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a fascinating topic and you explained it so clearly. Thank you very much.